Welcome to Email Autopsy. I'm Brendan Ziolo, and I've spent years in B2B marketing, writing, sending, and yes, occasionally cringing at emails.
And I'm Pauline Gabitsis. I'm a behavioral scientist who studies why people do or don't respond to what lands in their inbox.
Every episode, we take a real email apart through the marketer's eyes and the scientist's lens.
We'll show you exactly what's working, what isn't with some fixes, and the psychology behind all of it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Email Autopsy. Last time we looked at subject lines, which is that headline that decides whether your email gets opened and gets a chance to really break through the clutter of everyone's email box. Before anyone opens anything, they see the subject line, they also see the sender, which we touched on last time, and one other important piece of info, which is the preview text. The preview text is that third pre-open signal and what we're going to cover in today's episode. Let's dive into some examples that Pauline and I found.
So this one's from B2B Forum, and their goal here, like any conference, is to get you to buy a ticket. And while I think there are some areas, Brendan, for improvement with this subject line, overall, I quite like it. It's short, it's to the point. The only area where I'm being a little nitpicky would be on the dig it, because I'm not really sure what that means. But I think like the last chance creates a really nice sense of urgency. The 30% helps drive that urgency and make it more believable because it's very concrete. But when you look at these two things together, you might notice what I'm noticing, which is it's effectively an echo. The subject line and the preview text are saying exactly the same thing. 30% off tonight. Today is your last chance to save 30%. And what I don't like about this is, as we know, you have very limited amount of time in anyone's inbox to capture their attention, and you have very limited space to do that. If you are using effectively 2 out of the 3 places where you can actually capture attention to say the same thing, you are wasting signal. The subject line and the preview text, they should work as a unit. It should be a 1-2 punch. They should never be effectively mirroring the same thing both times. And so what I think would work better here is if they had said something like, members told us last year's sessions paid for themselves in a week. That is a really nice pairing with the subject line because the subject line still gives that urgency, 30% ends off tonight. And the preview text then drives that home with why it's valuable to get your ticket today or tonight instead of postponing. So just to restate, don't do the preview text and the subject line as the same thing. Don't make them an echo.
Yeah, and I think we found one that does a better job of that in maybe the next email. So Freewrite is a distraction-free writing tablet platform, gadget, whatever you want to call it. That's pretty cool. And here they're doing something similar where, they're making an offer for you to buy something like the B2B Forum did. But what's cool here is the sale extended $50 off. And while sale extended could run into that issue we've talked about before of you can't say this too much or you can't keep extending the sale or people won't believe you, but it has the $50 off. So I quickly know what I'm going to get out of it. And then the preview text does an amazing job of making sure you don't keep thinking this is going to be extended or don't know until when. It's very clearly ends today. So I know exactly what it's doing. So it's a really good approach to, leading with what you get and then the preview text driving home that message, which is ends today. It also uses emojis, which is, interesting. There's pros and cons to that. And I think there's a lot of different opinions on that. But I think it does it well here. It definitely reinforces the words in both cases and the emojis make sense. And the other thing I really like here is these are both really short. So they've split the job and done a great job of playing off each other and reconfirming, but they're also super short, which is great. And they would clearly be visible on any platform. So, I think Freewrite does a good job with the 1-2 punch that maybe our B2B Forum event didn't quite do as well.
I think you're right. I think that's the perfect counter balance to B2B Forum. I hate to be the negative Nelly here, but here's another one that I don't think was particularly good. And the main reason for this, Brendan, is because it looks like they actually might have never set the preview text. And I've seen this before happen. We spend so much time thinking about what the subject line should be. And then a lot of us marketers might forget that we should actually set the preview text. And we assume perhaps that maybe nothing will show up because we never said it. What often happens with a lot of email providers is something like this, where you are seeing the body copy from your email actually being pulled up into the preview text. And it's making a lot less sense in that space, in that setting. So here we have the preview text effectively, again, echoing sort of the subject line and also getting cut off. It's saying, "Hi, Brendan, I'm blank, a customer success manager at." What did you learn, Brendan, from those couple of words in that preview text? You learned what your name was, which you probably already knew, and you learned that this is coming from a customer success manager, which you also knew because it said it in the sender header. So I think this is a really interesting example of just always remember to set your preview text. Do not forget to set it because otherwise, most likely you're going to see that body copy come into the preview text space.
I got lucky on this episode because I think I have the good example again. So I'm going to be Mr. Positive today and pull up this one from Adobe. This email came in around early March. I think many people were full on tax prep or figuring out how to finalize their taxes and get all that kind of stuff done. And the preview text does a really good job here in terms of finishing the thought. So grabbed my attention with tax prep and paper clutter, and you're automatically thinking of all these receipts scattered everywhere and stuff like that. And they explain what they're going to do to help, right? They're going to keep it all in one place with Adobe Scan. So while it's very much a product pitch email, it does again do a really good job of the 1-2 punch. And they're also short again. I think we're seeing some good consistency here with the ones that are doing a good job in both the subject line and preview text being really short and people clearly thinking through what they want to do with each one. Grab attention, explain the results, or in the free write example, grab attention and explain when you're ending or when you need to take action. So again, I think Adobe did a really good job here of solving for what the previous one didn't do, just simply by thinking through the preview text as much as the subject line.
Totally. And this really reflects how deliberate Adobe was when sending this email, right? They really thought about the preview text and the subject line, just given how short it is. It's not easy to make copy short. We know that, especially as marketers when we're writing the copy. And so this is clearly something that they did purposefully and it works really well. I'll show you another one that I think is very purposeful, which is from Canva. And what I really like about here is that combo. The subject line and the preview text are really working together well here. So you've got the subject line, increase AI budgets, decrease AI slop. And the first thing that really gets me here is like, wow, this is just so well built. It's just two clean opposites. You're increasing one thing, you're decreasing another. It's just got this really nice rhythm as you're reading it, but it's also making a really big claim, right? And so when you read this subject line, your first reaction, especially if you're like me and you're playing around a lot with these AI tools, is like, I don't know about this, Canva. Like, I'm pretty skeptical. Everybody's making this claim. Is this going to be like just sort of junk mail? I'm not super believed by this subject line. And I think they know that, right? They preempt that through the preview text, right? Everyone's going to have that flicker of doubt. And so they're closing that gap by saying it's possible. Here's how. Those 4 words are what are driving people to actually click through into this email. It's turning the skeptic who read the subject line and was captured into someone who's now ready to open that email to discover the how. So I really think this is a nice job at capturing attention and then driving home what you're going to learn from that email. One more thing I want to point out here is the AI slop language. If you are someone who's sort of in, AI verbiage in the AI scene right now, you've heard this before. This immediately feels like this language is speaking to you, right? It really feels like Canva understands you, it understands your problem. And so this is a really nice implicit tiny signal that you are in sort of Canva's in group if you recognize this language. And so again, just really nice subject and preview as a unit. The subject sort of dares you to doubt it, and that's why it's bringing you in. And then the preview really answers that doubt. And that's why I think this combination is really earning its keep in somebody's inbox.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of good takeaways here, but the one I want to focus on is the one we saw early on that was just a total miss, and that was someone not setting the preview text. So that's definitely something that you need to make sure you do and spend some time on it because we saw some clear advantages from these emails when they did. In the example we saw earlier, they pulled from the first body copy of the email. But this can go even worse, as we can see in this example, right? This is another one where they didn't set the preview text. And because the email was a full image, there was no copy to pull whatsoever except something that was buried in, I think, the footer here. So, connect with us, and then you've got this little finger pointing at an address, which I really doubt has anything to do with this email. You probably don't even care where this company's from, yet that's where your eye's going to go here. Again, not setting the preview text can not only be a missed opportunity, it can cause some pretty crazy things when someone sees this in their inbox, as we see here. So that's my big takeaway is set preview text, spend time on it just as much as you may spend on the subject line. Do you have any other takeaways, Pauline?
Two more sort of hot tips or takeaways, which is one, keep that preview text and that subject line short and front load it. The first 40 to 50 characters are really going to be the most important parts to capture attention and draw people in. And the second, and I'm just beating this drum right now, which is give people a reason to open your email. Don't just repeat the preview and subject line. Use the limited real estate that you do have to really convince someone that your email is worth opening. So that's all for now. Tune into our next episode where we're heading inside the email itself. If you found this useful, subscribe, leave us a comment, and share it with whoever in your organization is responsible for your email marketing.
And here's something we'd really love. Send us a real email and we'll weave it into a future episode or have a personalized email autopsy session with you. The link is in the description. No deck, no pitch, just book a time.
We're Email Autopsy. See you next episode.